Siddarth Bhamre is also with us. Siddarth, good afternoon. Has today changed things completely as far as the series outlook is concerned? And would you be comfortable taking a long position right now, or is it a no trade zone right now?
Good afternoon, Anuj. Lovely point made by Hemendra, and I also think on those lines that it is never inflation which is in mind of governor to reduce the interest rate, but what would happen to currency. Market is reacting as if there is going to be announcement of 50 basis rate cut tomorrow, or probably after today market has, and I think that is this move is quite exaggerated. We saw that in last 3-4 trading sessions when market corrected at from higher levels, Anuj, we found more short positions formed in Bank Nifty, and that's the reason we gave long strangle. However, in this fall, we have not seen any fresh shorting taking place by FIs. So they have missed out on shorting at higher levels, probably in banking stocks or probably in markets. So this could very well be a trap that they are taking this market up, and probably at higher levels shorts might be generated. I am not saying you go short at higher levels, but at this point of time, I am not going to change any of my opinion or form any of the Nifty based trade. After a very long time, we formed index based trade in Bank Nifty, but Nifty not yet any trade. I won't get excited. In fact, I would suggest that if IVs are reducing, which they are, I don't mind, if somebody who's long in Nifty or have long portfolios to buy some at the money put options. So I'm not getting excited, and would throw a word of caution that not to form any aggressive long position at this point of time.
Okay, so that's a much needed caution, I guess, in this market that's running away for no reason. Do not go ahead and build some aggressive long positions. But Parag, just to come to some individual stocks that you've picked up, you've liked names like Power Grid in the utility space. That's a stock that you've been talking about for a while. Also, companies like Bharat Forge, etc. Do you think fresh, fresh investments into these stocks should be made?
Definitely. First of all, Power Grid has not moved up. In fact, it has corrected in last week. And it's a utility which is available at 14p and 1.4x book value, and recurring cash flow which is going to grow at 17-18%. So I would say it's a 7% earning bond which is going to grow at 18% without any risk. There are strong cash flows, although SEVs are under stress, but Power Grid's receivable situation is absolutely as it was. So they generate a lot of cash flows, and which are going to grow at 18%, which is not a small. And given that there are so many uncertainties around, and I completely agree with both of the other viewers' view that one cannot be very excited about this rally, because I think the Chinese concerns are here to stay. They have huge leverage, 280% of the GDP, and 160% of that is corporate debt, and which is mainly towards commodity and property markets, which are having a structural downturn. Sure. So I think there are a lot of concerns globally. So one would like to stay with some safer names like Power Grid.
Okay, some more stocks are now buzzing quite a bit. In fact, Maruti we spoke about. That's a new lifetime high for Maruti again. Tata Motors DVR. Pull out the intraday chart of Tata Motors DVR and see the kind of gains that you have seen, especially in the last half an hour of trade. Hemendra, word on auto names, Maruti in particular?
No, it's a very interesting question, because today there's been a rally because of this deal for clunkers. Now, actually, it's very interesting. It shows that the government is prepared to give a subsidy to the automobile industry to encourage car sales, and you're also giving a subsidy to high-income people to buy cars.
Their cars.
Exactly. Now, if such a subsidy had been given to Narega, there would have been a huge hue and cry. But this is, it makes good sense for the auto and for auto shareholders. But to me, it's a disastrous government policy. You must actually discourage private car ownership and encourage public transport ownership. I mean, public transport. Here, you're doing the exact opposite. And you're actually giving a subsidy to a high-income group and to a very well-off industry like the automobile industry.
This is just a suggestion made, right? Nothing has come through yet on this front.
But that is why the
stock market is reacting. And I doubt it will also.
Now, this is a recommendation given by an international, agency. Yeah. So this is the way it goes.
It takes place in some developed economies as well.
No, it does. But the point is, when we are talking about subsidies, it is actually a subsidy that you are giving. And here there's a huge hue and cry raised when subsidies are given. So my point is, when the fiscal deficit is under some strain, what is the need to give a subsidy to the automobile industry, which at the moment is doing quite well, passenger cars is doing well, and to give a subsidy to the high income bracket which purchases cars? To me, that's ludicrous.
You know what, I think the industry also does it to a certain extent. You know, if you have an old car and if you exchange, you clearly get a much better price than you would get if you were to sell it in open market.
That's okay. If private sector wants to give a subsidy, that's okay. They give discounts, but why should the government get involved? That is my issue. If a company wants to give a discount to encourage its sales, I have no issue at all. Probably shareholders may have an issue, but why should the government get involved in this, especially when we are talking about the fiscal deficit?
All right, Hemendra, that's a topic on which we can have a long debate. But for now, just about 1 minute left for markets to close. So let's just do a quick recap, and then we'll get back to our guest. The market really, it was a spectacular run today. Out of nowhere, no one would have thought something like this was possible. But 500-point move on the Sensex, 300-point move on the mid cap, and almost 600-point move on the bank nifty, up about 3%. Just 3 nifty losers: BPCL, Infosys, and Dr. Reddy's. Apart from that, there were big winners. Stock of the day in the index today clearly was Punjab National Bank. That stock goes home with 10% gains. Yes, that's big for this one. Apart from that, you had Yes Bank, Bank of Baroda, Kotak, ICICI, IndusInd Bank, State Bank. All of them were up. Then you had the Reliance that was up about 3%. That also supported the market, along with HDFC. Z Entertainment, 3 days of correction, and the stock is back to all-time highs, of 52-week highs again, 419 on Z Entertainment. So that stock was higher. Then you had some gainers like Hindalco and Mahindra as well, both up about 2%. That's the bell. So the final closing rate is 85.18. It will adjust a bit, but a good day for the market, and a big blast in the mid caps as well.
Oh yes, it was a big party there. So 2:1 in favor of the advances by the end of trade. Let me take you through the big winners. The stock of the day was clearly DLF. So that one goes home with a 20% gain. There's something brewing with either that company or the promoters or something like that. DLF's stock is all over the place. In fact, up 20% on huge volumes today. More than, I think, 2 crore shares were traded on that stock in trade. But HDL was not far behind. About 11% move is seen on that stock. So the entire real estate space was above. Indiabulls real estate up about 6% or so. The ones that reacted to good results: Jet Airways up about 9% after what looked like a very strong set of numbers for the company. IRB Infra, very good numbers again from IRB Infra this time. So that stock was up 6% or so. You have Glenmark that will now get added into the MSCI index. Glenmark goes home with a 7% gain. The newest entrant into the Nifty from September will be Adani Ports. That one has seen a lot of buying interest. That one is up almost, Adani Ports is up almost about 8.5%. And some buying seen in names like Siat, Torrent Pharma, etc. These are stocks that have seen quite a bit of position built up as well. Dish TV, a lot of the gainers from the last 5 to 6 months have once again come back on the buyer's radar. So Dish TV too went up with a gain of almost 5%. But what was on the losing end? Not too much to complain about actually today on the losing end. So you had Nalco down 4%, HCC down 2.5%, Chennai Petro came in for some profit taking, and Jyoti Structures was down almost about 20%. So that stock got really hit post its numbers. Big loss by the company over there. But all in all, very good day for the market. So we go home with a 500-point gain under our belt in the Sensex. Hopefully there should be some positive news flow from the finance minister's press conference later today, or else you could see big unwinding in the PSU banking space come Monday. But let's continue our chat with our guests. We were talking about the auto space, Parag. You have a couple of ideas that you've identified for us from there. Castrol is one of them. What's the next trigger for Castrol?
So basically, we have clearly seen that company has a pricing power, dominant market share in at least in passenger cars and two-wheelers, and plus, so this quarter itself, they had a gross margin expansion above 500 bips. So margins have come back because base oil prices have reduced in line with crude oil prices. Of course, this rupee depreciation which has happened in last 2-3 days is slightly negative for all this strong brand companies which are importing a lot of stuff. So that's a slight negative, but I think crude oil at $50, it doesn't make any difference of 2-3% depreciation of rupee. Plus the point is that once the economy picks up, your mining activity picks up, your use of lubricants will also increase. So there is a volume lever and there is a margin lever. Plus it is trading at 32 times CY15 earnings. It has in first half it has grown its PAT by around 50%. It is relatively cheaper compared to other strong brands which are having pricing power, which are almost trading at 35 times next year's earnings.
Sure, got it. So that's Castrol, of course, a stock that's done remarkably well all through the last 1 month or so, ever since its F&O inclusion actually. Siddarth, talking about F&O inclusions, two stocks that really had big build up today. 1 crore shares added in both Unitech and DLF. Was it a punting call? I know you're shaking your head even before my question, but what's your advice on these two names?
No, Unitech, definitely I won't comment anything about it. We are not tracking it and won't suggest either long or short there. DLF, honestly, this kind of move was not expected, but we have been suggesting that this stock is a good buy in real estate space, and around 115 it has a good support. Around 110, 115 stock did see accumulation of long positions, but despite we have been being bullish, I was not expecting such kind of move over here. And even I feel that there is some exaggeration in real estate space. So if tomorrow or say probably next week, if there is 50 basis point cut in interest rate, that doesn't mean people will start going out and start buying homes. So too much of optimism. I'm not saying to book profits or move out, but those who are holding long positions should see some mark-to-market downfall also.
Okay, clearly DLF was not just interest rate move, something else clearly happening on DLF. Lots of market buzz that we would not like to speak here. But okay, so Siddarth, on PSU banks then, do you think that the rally can sustain, or do you think these are good shorting opportunities?
I am, suggesting, or we were suggesting to short SBI around 285, 290 just before results, and we would continue to short SBI at higher levels. This whatever we guys have been discussing since morning today is more about financial engineering rather than anything else, and this is not a one-day phenomena where so much of optimism is given. So those people who have shorted at higher levels are in the money should continue to hold that. One stock which again is coming to our shorting radar is ICICI Bank.
Okay.
Now look at today's cash-based volume. If there is such a big move which has happened, then there's no cash-based volume which is supported. ICICI Bank, we have not seen any meaningful long positions getting formed. Stock has very strong resistance around 315 odd levels. So suppose today there is some announcement and that rub-off effect comes on Monday, and we see ICICI Bank around 310, 315, it is again a good shorting candidate. So I'm not very optimistic. I'll also comment on Bank Nifty here, Anuj. It is again coming back to that range of 18,800, 19,100. If something positive comes out, it might give a false breakout and may go about 19,100, too much of optimism, and then may fall back. I would suggest not to get excited in banking stocks, be it private space or PSU. And if there is a rate cut thing, then why Axis Bank is not moving today? Why there are not much of volume? So all these questions are suggesting that it's not as easy as what prices are mentioning today.
Okay, yes, that's a fair point that you've made. If it was a rate cut issue, then all of the banks would have moved. But just one word on some of these aviation stocks. Jet Airways reported a very good set of numbers, and so did SpiceJet. Is this a space that gives you any comfort, Parag?
So basically, this is a space where nobody actually makes money over a longer period of time, if you see. But this time, it's so basically crude has fallen to $50, and so has ATF prices, and so that benefit is clearly getting reflected in both Jet Airways and SpiceJet results. And plus, it's also plus the load factor has also improved. For example, the SpiceJet showed a load factor of around 89.5%, which was record. And so if you annualize this quarter's earnings, these stocks are seeming so cheap at around 5x or 6x. But the key thing here is that it should continue. The crude oil prices should continue, and then the competition, as we all know that this sector, there's always a fear of competition and great discounts being offered, and so all those things probably, hopefully, I think after so many years of loss making, the industry will also take some margins into their PNL, and finally shareholders will be rewarded. Of course, we don't have coverage on this stocks. It is a general view which I am giving.
Okay, Hemendra, if you were to wear your banking analyst hat again, mid-cap PSU banks, anything that looks exciting to you right now?
Yeah, there are some mid-cap PSU banks which have some interesting thing, which have some less infrastructure exposure. But I would just also like to comment on banking in general here at this moment, because the market has got very excited today. But it's very interesting to know that the rupee also has been depreciating. And corporate India has been borrowing left, right and center in foreign exchange, and it is mainly unhedged. So whenever the rupee depreciates, actually there should be a hit on banks, but that's not what we are seeing so far. And to me, there's a huge forex risk that corporate India is having, which is really not recognized, and which actually the banks are carrying that risk.
Okay, that's a fair point. And what would you expect later today from the finance minister?
Well, I would expect some, window dressing to say there'll be some big tickets, reform or something. But actually, I really don't think anything material will come out of it, because that has been the history that we have seen so far.
So there's scope for large disappointment.
I would think so, yes, because there's not much that he can do. I mean, if he is going to do some major recap of the banks, that would be, but the fiscal deficit does not permit him to do these things. Okay. So he has to window dress the things up.
Okay, point taken. Siddarth, last word to you, very quickly, any 2 or 3 stocks for the rest of the series in terms of shorts or longs?
Yeah, as I mentioned, ICICI Bank is one shorting candidate, but again, these candidates I'm mentioning, Anuj, are on rise and not at immediate levels. I'll wait and watch what happens on Monday. ICICI Bank is a shorting candidate. Then some of the financial spaces like LIC Housing Finance, one of my technical guys recommend to go short. We also have, some shorting opportunities in metal counters. Tata Motors, people have got excited. This is again one stock why there is not much of bounce back if there is, so much of optimism. I feel DVR as well as Tata Motors may make new lows. Those are also shorting opportunities. So make your targets and stop loss according to your financial management.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. We have to wind up. We would have continued this discussion for some more time, but we need to take a break. Well, on the other side of the break, the rupee has recovered from its intraday low of 65.32 per dollar.